המשיכי ישר. בעוד 400 מטרים, בכיכר סביב היציאה אל גדליהו. ברחוב שהם גרו. בכיכר סביב היציאה השנייה אל גדליהו.
היי לכולם.
ערב טוב. היום אני יכולה להיות שותפה. בת שלי איתי והיא נוהגת שמאלה אל פירות טרומפלדור.
היי לכולם. הייתה לי תחושה שלא הצלחתי לפתוח את הפגישה, אז נכנסתי להיסטריה קלה. ניסיתי להתקשר אלייך דלית, אבל...
סורי, ישנתי.
אבל לא, לפני 5 דקות זה קרה הכל. אבל לא ענית לי, אז נאלצתי למצוא את ה... להבין שהפגישה הצלחתי לפתוח אותה בעצם.
אבל את יודעת שאת יכולה להיכנס פשוט ליוטיוב ולראות את הלייב, ואז את יכולה לראות שבאמת את מקליטה. כאילו, אין עם זה...
כן, לא את ההקלטה. איכשהו...
אז התפספס לך?
עובדה שאנחנו פה.
כן. ובטוב.
בטוב לגמרי.
רציתי לשאול אותך משהו. לגבי הקבוצת פייסבוק, אם את רוצה...
בואי אחר כך, כי אנחנו כבר מוקלטים.
נכון, לא שמתי לב. אז דברי, אני אתקשר אלייך מחר.
בסדר.
יאללה. ביי.
Hello.
Hi, Anila.
Hi, Noah. So you're already ready, I see, with the recording and the YouTube and yeah, you've become real professional.
Not at all. 5 minutes ago, I thought there will be no lesson.
Well, I tell you the truth, I wouldn't have minded so much. Oh, talking about this, by the way, on the 24th, like not next week, but the week after, I'm not here. So I'm kind of on the road. So we will you'll have the evening off, which is a good thing for you also, I think. It's always good to have the evening off, isn't it? No? Yes? Also, I first step is done, because you keep asking me when are you coming. So in Switzerland, they started opening registration for the 3rd vaccine today. So I registered, and they start vaccination on the 15th, so I can go on the 16th, meaning in a week. Then I have to wait for another 2 weeks. Then, of course, it's, then it's big kind of stuff. It's like, will the Swiss people be able to already upload the 3rd shot on that certificate? Yes or no, because they're not sure yet. Will it be compatible with the Israeli Green Pass thing? Because it has to be uploaded onto that. So in order to get a permit to enter. So anyway, I'll see. But the first step is done. So since I have to go vaccination on the 16th and our next meeting is on the 17th, and I reacted to the vaccine, I reacted with kind of fever and whatever. So I don't know what next week will be, but we'll see. But definitely the week after there's none, because I'm not here, and I don't know if I will have, like, where I will be and if I will have access. And so that it's not becoming stressful for nobody, then I think we just cancel it. Okay? Yeah, thank you.
But about next week, that you are after the vaccine.
Yeah.
You will tell us how are you.
Yeah.
I will me something.
I don't think I will be so bad that I can't put on the Zoom. And but I will let you know. Do I let you know, or do I let Shachar know, or anyway, we'll see. Maybe I can still kind of function more or less, and doing some meditation is also not such a bad thing. Also, it wasn't that bad. I just had fever, headache, and aches everywhere, but only for 24 hours, and then it was gone. So also I had to lie because of you guys, because, but that I was sick, and I had 2 shots, because I knew that I needed 2 shots in order to come to Israel in August, which then didn't happen. But I actually would have needed only 1 shot. So then today, when I filled out the form online, and it says, were you sick? Did you have COVID? And then so I said no. So because otherwise they might not give me a 3rd shot. They might say, like, hey, come on. It's like, you were sick, you had 2 shots, it's enough. So, but it's not going to do any damage, because when I had my 2nd shot, I said, but I had COVID. And she said, oh, then you don't need this 2nd one. And I said, well, is it harmful? And she said, no, if you want to have it, you can have it. So this is how it was. So it's not registered on the certificate that I was tested positive. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, it's all a bit complicated, this whole thing. So let's do some just reflection, isn't it? So that is always good. And since today we're going to do the death absorptions also, it is just really good, you know, during the reflection, you sit down comfortably with a straight back, try to be at ease, and to connect with the body, and also to, as a motivation, to have to do these reflections or do meditation, not to feel good. This is the thing, you know, but to be able to stay with difficult emotions with a relaxed mind. This will be very, very helpful at the time of death, because if we haven't trained it, if we don't train it now, the mind will not be strong enough to think about this. Oh, now I do this and I do this. We have to, it will be very helpful if we do it in a way so that the mind is doing it automatically, right? Like when you drive automatically, isn't it? You don't have to think, now I have to shift, now this foot is going here and that foot is going there. Not too hard and not too much and this and that, you know, it comes very automatic. So this, we can do this also in our inner world with our emotions. When we train the mind to the moment it feels that it's getting stressed or tight, that we learn to relax. So if you're not so well at the moment, it might actually be quite good, because then you can take that one. Because you see, if we're always well, then we never have something to really work with. We never have something that we can really practice on. Yeah. So if you're never angry and you're never frightened and you're never jealous and you know you're always in a good way. Okay, it could be that at the time of death you will also feel like this, but who knows? You know, and then we haven't practiced. So so don't, you know, if you have moments where you don't feel so well, it's actually quite helpful. So don't think that it shouldn't be there and chase it away and, you know, distract yourself, because at the time of death also we will not be able to distract ourselves anymore. It's really good to see that, you know, when I'm not so well, where's my refuge? Where's the mind going? Already now while we are alive, and then to see that and then to ask ourselves, will it be helpful where the mind is going at the time of death? Okay. Okay, so you just sit with a straight back, as relaxed as you can. Being happy that we're still alive, you know, this is so important. It is so important to see the good things also in our lives, not only the things that are not going well. So you feel your body, you feel the breath going in and going out, like you have most probably no problems breathing. We take it for granted. But, you know, the latest now with COVID, we understood many people, all of a sudden they cannot breathe anymore. No oxygen going into their lungs. So now we feel that nourishing oxygen coming in, being transformed, and whatever the body doesn't need gets out through the out breath. And you just connect with that and try to stay there for a while. Let the mind rest on the breath. And then just reflect or try to find one good thing that happened to you today or last hour or something that makes you, that you see the difference between just watching the breath and the mind who understands the goodness in your life. And see, again, it's not to produce anything. It's not to manipulate anything. It's just to be aware. It's just to know what happens when we think this way or the other way. And then we start to understand directly. And you try to hold that, and you see that, you think about something really positive that happened, something that made you happy. And then there's a certain emotion or sensation coming up more. It's more a sensation than an emotion. And then we see that it's fading away. So we need to think about it again. And then it can take some roots kind of in our mind stream. Or if you're a neuroscientist, it can fire together and then it can wire. So then it becomes our habitual kind of thinking to see the good thing. Doesn't mean we don't take care of the negative things anymore. So now you go that way. So you think about something unpleasant that happened to you lately, preferably today, so that, by remembering it, the sensation still comes up. Now, what kind of sensation is that? And you keep your awareness on it, not to push it away. And you will see that also this maybe unpleasant sensation also fade away. If we are mindful. But this mindfulness needs to be trained, and it has to come automatically. And it's not so difficult, actually, if you take just first 10 minutes, then 20 minutes every day, just to sit and just to watch your mind without interfering. When we look at the motivation for doing Dharma practice, again, it's like, of course, short term, that we get a handle on these negative emotions, that we're not creating more and more potentials that will result in something unpleasant, as we just been thinking about so long ago, just before. Then if we can expand that a little bit, not just for myself, but also for people that I am in contact with, friends, colleagues, family. And again, we try to connect to that very fundamental natural goodness that we all have. Again, now don't think about others when I say that we all have. Very often the ego comes and says, I'm sure that one doesn't have. We all have it. And anyway, it's none of your business what others do. So you have to connect to your own goodness, the yearning for purity, peace, freedom, space. You connect. Just stay there. Might be a bit nostalgic. It might be maybe even hurting a bit, saying, oh, I don't have it. Yeah, at the moment we don't have it, but we have the potential to have it because it's our nature. And sometimes we become so narrow and so small. But think about also the natural spaciousness that we have. Our mind has no limits. We just limit ourselves. So try to see what that does to the mind state. You say, natural spaciousness. No limit. Again, just observe. Don't manipulate it. It could well be that when we start to remember that the mind has no limits, we all of a sudden start to relax because there's a lot of space. We do give space. Then when we are in contact with the yearning for this natural goodness to come to the surface, when we are in contact with the natural spaciousness, then also the natural intelligence will start to manifest. Very spontaneously, we know what to adopt, and we know especially what to abandon, what to give up. So then that's the motivation for the Dharma practice, for any spiritual practice. To bring to the surface this natural goodness that we have, to be able to live this natural spaciousness, and to let this natural intelligence, or wisdom maybe is a better word than intelligence, not something that we learn, the knower, knowing directly, unmistakably what brings happiness, what brings suffering. That should be the motivation to be able to live that, because that's our potential, so that we can live our values that we all have, spontaneously, uninterruptedly, and the best thing, effortlessly, in a way, natural. And then as a motivation, especially for today, because we're going to go through the absorptions, that we also think my Dharma practice, not just for this life, but so I can prepare for death. I mean, not in a panicky way, but really starting to think already now, okay, what things do I still have to clean up? And I don't mean your apartment, maybe, I don't know. But it's more inside things, you know? But there's still people who upset me, that make me nervous, that are able by just being present to disturb my peace of mind? Am I attached to that feeling of aversion towards them, or am I ready to work with it so nobody can disturb my peace of mind at the time of death? It's a very big question. That. If these people appear in your mind now, try to relax and think, especially at the time of death, I will not meet them again in that. It's okay. Whatever happened, I don't need to hold on to it, to hold grudges, to be angry. And again, just watch your reaction. Connect with your breath. Be aware of what is happening. And see that when we don't feed that tension, it will fade away. But if we tell ourselves, if that person comes in the room when I'm in the process of dying, it will be okay. Or find other thoughts and other arguments why it's okay for this person to come in the room. You see, if our ego mind is going, no, 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 that one should not be there, you definitely have to let people know. Don't let that person in. Write it down. We have no more control. This is probably the worst about dying. We lose control. Then, if you think about people that you are attached to, people you don't want to leave behind, that's the most difficult one also. That will also disturb our peace of mind. So instead of kind of, how can I go without you? Just feeling of being grateful. Thank you very much for having accompanied me on the journey in this life. May we meet again on a good note in our future life. We talk about non-attachment. It doesn't mean that you have to become as cold as a fish or like a vegetable with no more emotions. It means we exchange attachment for gratitude, for example. We exchange aversion, anger, for understanding that it's finished, I'm going. And maybe, even being able to forgive the person for having harmed you. That would be the best state of mind. Go like this. All of these things at the moment, they don't bother us so much because, we don't really count with dying soon. No. So it is worthwhile just to think about these things from time to time. Who would disturb my peace of mind if they came into the room? And where are my attachments? Can I change them into gratitude? And try to do that now. it will be helpful if you do believe in rebirth and you think, you know, we have been existing since beginningless time. So we had billions and billions and billions of lifetimes. No need to just focus on that life. We will meet again. If we leave off on a good tone, we will continue in a good way. Okay. Would you like to share something about what happened? Do you have people that, you know, that you think that, ooh la la, these ones I definitely don't want to have when I go? You see, a very good thing that you could do, which we usually do when we do death and dying weekends, is that you kind of write down, I think we did it maybe in the Lamrim, or I can't remember. If you write down, you know, in what way you definitely don't want to die and in what way you would like to die. Now, again, you know, the best preparation for death is to see that we're going to lose control and we can't really prepare the way we would like to prepare, because that means you will stay open and flexible. And that will be very important at the time of death. Yeah, and then, of course, you know, now also, when we have problems in this lifetime, you know, instead of going, then we try to find something helpful, like a helpful method. Good thing is always to think about your guru, take refuge, or think about the Buddha, think about your practice, think about your Buddha potential by thinking, is that the way I want to go? You know, or is that the way I want to react? Or, you know, as we had one homework at one point, when you have a difficult situation, that I was, the thought was, you know, being a good person, what is an appropriate reaction now to this thing? Okay. So a bit like this. So this would be an exercise for yourself, is just to see in what way would I like to go and in what way do I don't want to go. And I think I told you when I did this exercise with Greg Ruziski, we did these courses together. And so I was writing down, you know, I want to die next to my guru and peace of mind and everything this and that. And then I looked at it, and then we had to say what we had written down. And I also had written down, I don't want this person to read the death absorptions or to do the practices. And then I'm thinking, what are you doing here? You know, your guru is 70. I was maybe 50 at that time. You know, the chance that he will be sitting next to me when I die is very, very small. So then I have to die really quickly and really soon. And also then I thought, if I'm in this part of the world where this person is that I had a problem with, she will do the practices because that's her job. She is the nun who is doing it in that area of the world. So then I thought, okay, now I have to work with this. I have to work with my aversion towards her, and I have to learn to do, you know, to do the things. Of course, I can cry out to my guru. Of course, I can think about my guru. And but will it work when he's not alive anymore? And I can tell you, because my guru has died in 2006, and it still works. So it's okay. If your connection with your guru is good and strong and healthy, then he will always be there, even if he has left his human body. That will be okay. That's very helpful, you know. So a little bit like this. So you can do this exercise if you want at one point, and then to see how realistic it is, you know, how realistic our wishes are and how unrealistic our wishes are not. And And also what is very good around dying, it's good to sit down and to write down this, you know, not just what you want to do as a patient. You know, we say, I don't want to go on machines. I don't want to do this. I don't want that. I would like that. So I talked to a nurse actually the other day. We were talking about this very extensively. And she said, you know, it would be much, much more helpful if the patients, when they cannot communicate anymore, they would tell us what they want instead of tell us what they don't want. You know, like you can write, if you're Buddhist, I want a Buddha statue in the room, or I don't want a crucifix if you don't want, you know, or things like that. Or I like beauty, so that the nurses know you have to be clean, and if you're a man, shaved and all this. And, you know, I said, I like massages. So it's, you know, if you're not able to say that anymore, it's good to write it down. So that's when you're still alive and in the palliative station or in a hospice. But you can't communicate anymore. But it's quite good also. It will be very helpful for your surroundings to write down what you would like to know, to make it more helpful when somebody close to you dies. And that goes down to all your passwords, for example. All your accounts and all your passwords, make a list. So then it will be easy for the people, you know, to open your computers, send out messages to everybody that you have gone and you have died. And it's also okay to write down what practices you want to have done and these kind of things. And then watch your mind while you're doing this. It's really interesting. Because that means really, you know, dealing with our own death. Because we prepare a trip, right? We prepare a trip when we go on holiday. I mean, this is going to be a big trip. And how can we say that when, you know, it will be okay because I will have to die anyway and I don't have control and this and that. But if you don't want to do it for yourself, then it's really good to do it for the people who have to clean up after you so that they know, you know, for example, writing something like, whatever is in my possessions, give it away, throw it away, sell it, it's perfectly okay, all of it. So if you're the only Buddhist in your family and your family has to clean up your stuff, they don't know what to do with the things. So if you just say, give them away, throw them away, we'll be okay. So they will be okay about it. And then you see your attachment to your things, that you want your non-Buddhist family kind of looking after them and taking care of them, or at least tell them where to bring them. You know, sometimes we got in the Century and Burn, sometimes we got a whole bag full of stuff or boxes full of stuff from Buddhists who have died, and the family didn't know what to do with them. So they just put it in front of the door. And when I said at one point, because somebody was coming to the Century and Burn, and she said, yeah, I will give all my things to the center. So I said, yeah, and if I'm still here, maybe some of these things will go to the secondhand shops because we won't be able to keep all of it. And she was shocked. I said, well, you want me to put it in the basement where nobody can see it, or you want me to put it in a shop where somebody who really likes these things buys it and then uses it? And she said, okay, maybe like this.
May I say something?
Yes, please, Dalit.
As you know, as most of you know, I'm living in kibbutz in the last years, in my kibbutz, the kibbutz that I was born there.
Yeah.
So in the last years, I'm going with the old people who sell this place. They are very, very old, almost 100. And I'm working with them until the death, with them and with the family. And with your list, we are doing everything. As what do you want to do with your stuff? Do you want that it will be to help other people, that they will enjoy this, or you want to throw it, or all of these things? But the only things that I didn't do, and I'm so happy that you said so, we always said a note, what not to do.
Right.
In the hospital, or with the family, or with the staff, or with the money, with everything. But I didn't, and they didn't ever said what they want to do, like a peaceful mind, like, please make me some lac on the nail, or make my hair beautiful, or put some flower. And I think about my grandmother that she passed away some months ago. She was 106. And the last few months, I'm so sad that I didn't know that I could ask her what she wants at the end. So it's so different, because I ask her, what don't you want?
Right.
So it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's not from me. It's from this nurse who works in the palliative station. And she said it's so helpful because they like to do things to make people comfortable. But they need to know, because sometimes people either they don't say because they feel embarrassed, they don't want to be selfish, or like this. It makes everybody more comfortable when we know what they want. So yeah, so make a list. Don't have to wait until you're 100 years old. You can make the list now. That's okay. And then tell somebody also that is very close to you, you know, you can talk about these things. I think it's important also, because we also have to consider the wish of the people who still, that we leave behind. We also have to, we can also go in a better way when we think that, you know, I also am doing something, or I don't want them to do things that they don't want to do, for example. Yeah. And then as we start talking about these things, as Netta was saying, why is Shantideva using death? All of a sudden, life becomes much more precious. Because instead of putting it into the cupboard, you know, a little bit to the side, we don't want to know that we're dying. All of a sudden, we're taking it out, because we do know that we're going to die at one point. And we all know, yeah, in general, people die when they're old, but some people die also when they're young. So it's like, so then we start to really appreciate life. Okay? Is that okay? So we look at these 3 verses again quickly, and then we go again, then we do the death absorption. So we were at the verse number 10, where it says, tormented by the memory of my evils, or like my negative actions. And it's when you are alone and you don't have any entertainment going on, this is what you will remember. And so this is why I'm saying also, it's good to already now know to deal with these feelings, that you can relax, and it doesn't, you know, you're not taking it with you. By saying, for example, okay, I goofed up, but it's okay. I did negative actions, I regret, and, you know, things like that. Or whatever helps you, that is not a distraction. Distractions, it's helpful for a short while, but it's still there. But we can dissolve these, you know, these feelings of guilt or shame or whatever. And this is important, to learn to forgive ourselves, to take, you know, to say also, for this, I take responsibility, but what happened afterwards, because I didn't want this to go like this, I don't need to take responsibility. In general, we take too much responsibility. Now, hearing the sounds of hell, it's more like, you know, our whole environment starts to kind of, to become different. So, and we might hear sounds that we're not knowing what it is. In terror, I shall close my body in excrement. Yeah, because we cannot control the body anymore. So if it happens and you're still aware of it, just know that it might happen, but you're not. Then we talk about, or we think about shared humanity. You're not the only one to whom it happened. You know, it's also good to learn not to be embarrassed when your body is doing something that is considered not very polite, like, you know, farting or whatever. But as you get older, you don't have so much control over these winds anymore. And then, you know, sometimes also some material is coming out. So you might be wearing nappies, you know, when you die. Who knows? So learn already now not to be embarrassed about these things. Now, and then he tells us, you know, verse 11 is he tells us it's really worthwhile to train for that last moments so that we're not activating like negative or unhelpful seeds for our next rebirth. So that, he is making us afraid a little bit, because he's talking in verse 11 about next life. And he says, even in this life, I shall be gripped with fear, like that of it should be life, okay? But it's what's it called? You know, it's a PDF, I can't change it. So like that of a live fish being rolled in hot sand, why even mention the unbearable agonies of hell that will result from my unwholesome deeds? So I have to do something about these unwholesome deeds. I have to do purification. And then verse 12, now can I remain at ease like this when I have committed the actions that will bear fruit in my delicate infant's body and conjuring boiling acids in the hell of tremendous heat. So it should give us the wish to prepare for death. And then verse 13, we can also look at this. Much harm befalls those with little forbearance and those who want results without making an effort. So we want a good rebirth, but we're not making the effort. And we have very little forbearance, meaning we have very little patience. We will probably need a lot of patience before we're finally dead. You know, it's not that you're healthy and then boom, you're dead unless you have an accident. But most of the people die, you know, it's like in stages. And we can ask Dalit again. You know, it can take a long, long time for people to be able to go. While clasped by death, they shall cry like the gods, oh no, I'm overcome by misery. So we don't have to have it, you know, go there. So are you all okay to do the death absorptions? Yeah, if it becomes too much or you think that this is perverse or whatever, then just clink yourself out. So that's okay. I'll just guide you through it. And then if you have questions, you can ask. So I'm not going to make it that complicated. You know, I'm not going to say, oh, here, you know, this happens and that with the body and all this. I'm just talking about the appearances, because this is what we have to learn, so that then at the time of death, our subtle mind, if we're really fortunate, will recognize the clear light mind. It will recognize it as the mind, that this is it. You know, you can't say this is me, because there will be no more me. But kind of, sometimes they talk about the sun clear light recognizes the mother clear light. Like the mother clear light is our natural, pure, clear light mind that we are not in contact with because it's covered. It's covered with the wrong view that there's a real self, real I, you know, inherent existence, separate from others, not seeing the projections of our mind, and so on. So that one is covered, but that's the mother clear light, is always there. The sun clear light is the clear light that you train in your especially tantric practices. When you again and again and again go through these absorptions in these appearances steps, you know, and then you try to stay in the clear light as much as possible. And this is called the sun clear light. So the sun clear light is what you have practiced in your life when the mother clear light cannot appear, because we can only fake it. When these two meet, because then it will be the understanding of non-inherent existence and the natural clear light. And when that comes together, that would be enlightenment. So, you know, we have this one chance every time at the time of death. So we shouldn't kind of just waste it like this. But for that, we definitely have to die in a calm state of mind where this can happen. So try to make yourselves comfortable. If you want, you can actually lie down. The chances that you will fall asleep, which will be okay. Don't worry so much. Because we can train these things again and again and again. I hope this is not, if it's your first time, I hope this will not be your last time that you go through these absorptions. So make yourselves comfortable. Try to be at ease. We will maybe take 20 minutes or 15, 20 minutes. It shouldn't be too long so that you start to get bored and uncomfortable. And then, in order to set the mind at ease, I just opened up that document, but you don't really have to read it if you don't, you can just hear and try to integrate that, because this is the sutra at the time of death, where Akashagarva asked the Buddha, when a bodhisattva is dying, what should he think, or where shall he put the mind, actually was his question. And this is the Buddha's answer. So try to see the wrong view that we have. There is me, and there is Losang talking out there in the computer, and there's the computer, which also exists from its own side, and how this is possible, that with the little green hole that I have in my camera here, that people in Israel can see me. No idea. And then we see, there's so many conditions, so much, dependent arising. Therefore, things do not exist from their own side. It appears as if we push the button and then it just appears. And that's wrong. We don't see all the conditions. We don't see the dependent arising. So the first one is, since all phenomena are pure by nature, meditate the thought of the non-real existence of things. So whatever you feel attached or averse to, again, this is why we started the reflection a bit like this. And this is especially, it can be material stuff also, but I don't think that is for us such a big problem. It's more people. So when you maybe remember these two different reactions we had to people we're attached to and people we are averse to, when you think, they are pure by nature, they do not exist from their own side the way they appear. They are neither good nor bad. It's just my own mind projecting this. And we especially think about the non-existence of a real good person or a real bad person. You look at these two different people and you think, both of them totally empty of any inherent existence. And try to see what this thought is doing. Again, don't manipulate anything, but observe. We see them as totally real, totally good, totally not good. Illusion, projection. Then we talk about, we think about shared humanity. So for a bodhisattva, bodhicitta, with bodhicitta, meditate the thought of great compassion. All beings can attain full awakening. So again, aversion and attachment. At one point, we will all be Buddhas. No more fear, only peace, only universal love and compassion. May all beings attain that state as quickly as possible. And you can even have the thought in your death process, may my death process be of benefit to others. May I attain enlightenment really, really quickly so I can lead others to that state. So instead of, I don't want to die, I have to attain enlightenment to benefit others. With bodhicitta, meditate the thought of great compassion. Imperceptible by nature, luminous clarity meditate without any attachment to things or people or situations at all. Just tell yourself that, let go. All of it is impermanent, meaning at one point it will fall apart anyway. You can't take it with you. So being attached just creates more suffering. Wish them well. Be grateful for having had these things and let go. And tie these knots of attachment voluntarily before being forced to let go. Let go. Mind is the cause of the arising of wisdom. Do not seek Buddhahood elsewhere. When we start to feel that our reality is changing, like for example, all of a sudden you have a feeling of falling as if the earth is not supporting you anymore, because the earth element loses its power, then you know, now the process starts, and you can already tell yourself, I mustn't miss the clear light. Here you would have an apparition of a mirage, because the earth element absorbs into the water element, so water comes up. So it's like seeing in the desert, flimmering air, and it looks as if there's water in the distance. A Fata Morgana, or in English, a mirage. Hot, flimmering air. And it looks like water in the distance. It could well be also at that moment that you can't move your limbs anymore. It's normal, because it's the aggregative form that loses its power. So knowing that this is normal at the time of death, it will help you not to panic. And you go, this is what we learned. I can't move my arms anymore. I cannot sit up. I have no more power over the body. When we know it's normal, we calm down. Then when the water element absorbs into the fire element, it becomes a bit uncomfortable, because the body liquids dry up. So you have very dry mouth. You cannot bring the saliva back. But a good thing to know is that it's also the aggregate of feelings that lose their power. So you would still feel pain, but it's not uncomfortable or unpleasant. Or you would still lie, on a very comfortable bed, but it wouldn't feel pleasant. So this whole thing about, the fear of pain, the ability to distinguish pleasant and unpleasant, it goes quite early in the death process. And your inner vision would be filled with smoke, and this is where you lose contact with outside sounds. Also, it's the ear sense. But you might hear some inner sounds. This is it. You might hear some strange sounds and you can't figure out what it is. So again, just think, okay, internal sound is normal. The vision filled with smoke is normal. Nothing is burning. It's because the water element absorbs into the fire element. That makes smoke. And when the fire element absorbs into the air element, the inner vision is filled with sparks within that smoke, because when you blow into the fire, it makes sparks. And we know that when you faint, also you see sparks. This is how it looks. No sparks outside, but you can clearly see them. And it's the aggregate of discrimination that loses its power, so your mind also starts to disengage from the outer world. Maybe you know that there's some people around you, but you have no clue who they are, and you don't really care. Because the mind becomes more and more subtle. At this point also, because the next element that absorbs is the air element, breathing in and out becomes not painful, but makes sound. So for you, it would not be uncomfortable because your body is starting to shut down, doesn't need any oxygen anymore. You're not going to joke at the time of death. The same way as it doesn't need body food and drink anymore, all of a sudden it doesn't need oxygen anymore. But the people outside might hear some kind of strange sounds when you breathe in and you breathe out very long. And then sometimes there's nothing, and all of a sudden it seems like coming back. But you as a dying person, they say, absolutely not. So you don't have to worry when you are with the dying person. They're not gaping for breath. And the inner vision, as I said, is filled with sparks within that smoke. And the last of these body elements that absorbs is the air element, which absorbs it, said, into more subtle consciousness, or you can say into space or vacuum. So you stop breathing at that moment. So please continue to breathe, okay? So you just stop breathing. Your inner vision is like a very big dark room lit by one candle, which is the flame very unstable, sputtering kind of, just about to go out. You have lost contact with the outer world. You don't perform any physical actions anymore. You would be declared clinically dead, but your mind is still in the body. Your subtle mind. You don't feel anything anymore. At this point, if you want to give your organs, they would cut you open. Absolutely not a problem. But be aware that that's what will happen. So you need to know already now, remind yourself, okay, the moment I stop breathing, maybe even a little bit before, they will cut my body open. It will be so wonderful that they take my organ. so somebody else can live with them if they're still usable. Now, from now on, because it's the 80 concepts that lose their functions, like that come from attachment, aversion, and wrong use. So it has to do with now just meridians like energy channels and drops. Don't worry so much about the drops. Those who do these meditations, tantric ones, they know. What appears now is it's called the white appearance. It's a total vacuity, kind of, no more thoughts. Just an appearing of white light, but not direct white light. They say the reflection of the full moon on freshly fallen snow. The next one that appears called the red increase. Don't worry so much about the names, what they call it. And it's a very clear vacuity, meaning totally empty, filled with copper red light, like the sky sometimes at sunset, but without horizon, without clouds. Just the empty sky. Copper red light. The next one is called black near attainment. So it's utter darkness. And sometimes people who have near-death experiences describe it. So that means your subtle mind is still in the body. So you could still come back, basically. And some people do. They talk about tunnel. Then when that kind of black appearance ceases, then all the subtle winds, all the drops have dissolved into what is called the indestructible drop at our heart chakra. And this is the moment of clear light, when nothing appears, nor white, nor red, nor black, just total space, but it's luminous. Luminous space, no beginning, no end, no obstructions, no thoughts, no me, I, others. Just utter bliss. Bliss, the emptiness of the mind, the clarity, everything becomes one. Then when that clear light of death ceases, because it also, it ceases, then the very subtle mind would leave the body on a very subtle wind, is called, going into the intermediate state, then, according to the karma, and that has been activated at the beginning of this process, would find the next rebirth, the next form, driven by attachment and karma, because we want to exist. But But now we're not going there, so we go backwards so that we make sure that you're not too spaced out. We come back into this body. So from the clear light, try to visualize the black near attainment. And the red increase. White appearance. Flickering candle. Stable dim light. And sparks within the smoke. And the smoke. Mirage. Then very consciously take a few deep breaths. Feel how the earth is supporting you. And know who you are and where you are. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes if they were closed. Okay. You can try to train that by going to sleep. You will see you will fall asleep very peacefully, and probably you will come maybe to the third one, and then that's it, you're asleep. So if you have problems falling asleep, one thing is really good to very consciously relax your face, and then do these these visualizations, and then you fall asleep. So it's a very good way. Some people who faint sometimes, they probably recognize a few things, because it's also like, the mind goes in, when we faint, the mind goes into more subtle state, and you don't feel anymore, you don't have any more feelings or sensations. The hearing goes, right? And you feel before you fall that the earth is not supporting you anymore, kind of. And what else was there? The sparks also, you can maybe remember sparks. And then I used to faint when I was young, and nobody knew why. I wish I would have known what I know now, because then I would have enjoyed it even more. I never really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first moment coming back, because you're still in that spaciousness in a way, where I was, but then you see the faces around you, and then you go, happening, faces that look at you happened again. But you don't know who you are when you come back, the first moment, and it's quite spacious. Anybody has made that experience? Dalit?
Yes.
Yeah. And Einat also, who wants to say first what you experienced?
I used
Einat?
to faint. Yeah.
Mhm.
I used to faint quite often, and it's really this. It's very much like you
Yeah.
said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
But
I don't remember.
I was
Huh?
frightened from this feeling. I didn't like it. I don't like it even now, but
Yeah. But you see, when we know that this is absolutely normal, that this is happening, then we are less frightened. And I still remember, although I didn't know about death absorptions and clear light and all this, I still remember the first moment of kind of being conscious again. It's very short, but it was fantastic. Very, very spacious. But then, yeah, you see people around, who look at you, and then I feel embarrassed, and I go, oh, it happened again. And then all of a sudden it stopped. So since then, I haven't fainted anymore since I was maybe 20, 21. It lasted maybe 2-3 years. Not every day, of course, but like maybe 3-4 times a year. I would just plunge. That was it.
I can say something about it because I don't know how to say it in English, two different kind of, like if you're in a hospital and then you had to wake up. So it's really like what you say that.
Also.
Yeah, that you try to understand where you are to become control again about the situation and things like that. But in my life, it's happened to me several times, like 5 or 6 times in my life. The first time I was alone, and it was so interesting, like you said, it was so clarity. The moment I wake up again, I didn't know where I am, but the clarity about everything in life, it was so awesome. And then the second time, I don't know why, but I remember everything I felt in the first time. And then in the third time, I remember the second time.
Okay.
So it's become familiar.
Yeah.
And then when I had my accident, and it's happened to me after the accident, I could control about things. It's not control like that, but because it was so clear, everything, like time was no time, and everything was like in different level of life. So I could react so differently. So I don't know.
So there you go. So nice. Thank you, Dalit. So you see the power of familiarity, we don't really have to, I have to remember. We just have to repeat it, and then we might have a chance. Is that okay? Did you follow? Did you fall asleep? What happened?
For me, it wasn't the first time that I did this.
Yeah.
I made it once with you in Samim some years ago. And then I was, I think, very much on tension and just couldn't go with it, just try to understand or something like this.
Yeah,
And this time I just know, and I let myself go inside. And it was quite different.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is, if you do it the first time, your mind goes, what? Which talking about what is going on? But the more you hear it and the more you understand, then the more you become familiar with it. And I really, of course, it comes from tantric practices and all this. So, but I really like people to know it, because it can also help you when dying people are describing what they are going through or what they're seeing or what they're feeling. And then you go and say no, everything is okay. Don't worry. You're lying on your bed and the person is saying, I'm falling. So then instead of calming them down, you actually make them even more upset. And as Edouard already said, the moment we understand that something is normal, even though it's not normal, but we need somebody to tell us it's normal, we calm down. It's quite amazing, actually. Yeah. So it's good, it will be helpful at the time of death, I think. so that we're not freaking out, we're not panicking. Of course, you can also say, oh, who knows tantric practices, what is all this, and who said, and, has it been proved scientifically? And of course, you can look at it like that. This is also a possibility. That's fine. You have every right to look at this the way you want to look at it. Yes, Edouard.
Yeah, I'd like to share my experience, which is closer to what Dalit has said. I fainted, I think, twice. I remember it very clearly once. I fainted once. I was 33 years old. It was the first time I fainted, and it was long. I know it was long because I fainted in the house, and I woke up in the hospital.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
And I know the people around were very afraid. So that's the thing that bothers me to that day. The fainting itself was a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
The falling that you mentioned was so calm, and getting into this black spacious space. I don't remember there were stages like you mentioned, and then there was. I still have a kind of memory of this nothingness,
right?
And then waking up so calm and so feeling so good. And I was not upset to wake up. Actually, I was very happy because I saw my family and friends who were there. And but the feeling of it was very, very strong and very calming.
Yeah, so I think also the way we go through this process, or through a fainting or whatever, very much has to do in what kind of state the mind is while it is happening. Before it starts or something like that, it definitely has an influence, because they say while we can still think, we activate a karmic imprint that then will kind of throw us somewhere. So this is maybe why he mentions, we hear the cries of hell, and then don't worry. I mean, it's like your guru, and I don't know if I should say it, but if you have good connection with your guru, he can hook you in the bardo. They can reach you in the bardo, but if you have that habit, then when there's a problem, that you pray to your guru, say, hey, I'm afraid, where are you? Come on, help me, something like that. You don't have to be very respectful and say, oh, please, compassion. You can be yourself when you do these kind of requests and prayers. Come on. It's like when you are with the guru, then good to be, like this. But when you are alone, and it's okay. But so that you make that connection, because they have more powers than we have. And the ones who are real gurus, don't ask me for a list, please. You have to find out yourself. Where you have this very strong connection, and it says in the text, your guru can shape your mind like you can shape leather in the water. So don't be afraid. Remember your practice. And this is what they say when you give instructions to a person who has died, right? There's the very long one, there's the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is very extensive, but then there's just 1.5 pages, which is called Giving Instructions to the Dead, where you actually also, you shout at even the person is not there anymore. You say, don't be afraid and don't be attached. Let go. You're dead now. You don't need these things anymore. So, and then think about your practice and think about your guru. Take refuge. This is these are the instructions for a Buddhist. So if ever you hear I'm dead, then, I'd be very happy if you read these instructions for 49 days. Or now it's, YouTube. If somebody puts the Tibetan Book of the Dead next to me, I'd be very happy. Even if it's just YouTube, I don't care. It doesn't have to be a living person. Of course, if it's a living person, it's nice. But yeah. And to already now, to have that wish. Now, again, I know I talk a lot about gurus, and some people think they can do without gurus. Yeah, fine. But then we're alone, And the guru can be the Buddha, by the way, because when we think about the Buddha in a non-theistic way, which we shouldn't think about the Buddha in a theistic way, like the poor sinner here, me, and the great mighty Buddha out there is like, I want to become the Buddha, When we think like this and we think about the Buddha, then same as I said with the mother clear light and the sun clear light, then the causal Buddha who is in us, our Buddha nature, and the resultant Buddha who is outside, when these two come together, then also we have a chance, at least a good rebirth where we meet the Dharma again. Does that make sense, more or less? I promise you the next few times will not be so esoteric anymore, okay? So, and you can complain if you want.
Perfect.
Elisheva, you opened up your microphone.
Yes, today I just want to share. Today I went to swim in the sea, and I went by myself, and I was going deep inside the water, and finally, and suddenly I felt like my heart is beating strong, or something like this. Something in my heart is beating. And I said, oh, what is going on? And I was there alone. And I said, okay, what will you do? So I lay down on my back like this and let go. And I'm used to it. I'm doing a relaxation. And it was like I become the water. Like I didn't feel my body. And I was so relaxed. In 2 minutes, everything passed away. My heart was okay. It's not about what we are talking today, but
it's also
I could be very anxious, but I did the opposite. I just lay down and.
That's good. So if we can train such reactions when we feel the heart beating or all of that, a friend of mine today who is in chemotherapy since quite a number of years, she has multiple myeloma, and she sent me a WhatsApp, I'm in the hospital again. What happened to her yesterday? She couldn't walk anymore. She didn't have strength in her legs anymore, and they could come from the therapy. So it's like, but then again, also she reacted in a very cool way. She just called the ambulance and that was it, because she lives alone, but she could have totally panicked. Right. And she said, well, okay, I'm only 66 or something, but I think I'm going to get this button, that you carry, that when you press it, then they come. I'm sure you also have this in Israel. Usually it's people over 90 who walk around with this. And now, because people don't want to be seen with this button, tell you, humanity. So they have to make it into a jewel. They have to make it into an amulet that you wear around your neck. So people think it's a jewel, but it's actually the button that you press. It's like, why be embarrassed about this? It's a good thing that we have this system. So she said, and it's totally new for her, but also she reacted really, really calmly, and also on the telephone, she wasn't panicking or crying or complaining. She said, oh, then, so I said, oh, please take care. She said, why? I don't have to take care. I'm in hospital. They're taking good care of me. I'm totally calm. I feel that I'm in the right place. So even though with not good news like this, but knowing that you're being taken care of, you can be calm. And being calm and being patient, I tell you, this will be so valuable. Yeah. Okay? Okay, so we have a brief look at the next one, because that will be at the next verse, because that will be your homework. Now it finished with death for a moment, Netta. We will attend Shantideva will definitely come back to it. He uses it a lot. So verse 14, oh, you can't see it. Say. Here we are. Relying upon the boat of a human body, free yourself from the great river of pain, as it is hard to find this boat again. This is no time for sleep, you fool. Okay, so this is what you have to tell yourself during the week, kind of when we are conscious that we are about to create causes that will not be helpful at the time of death, so that we can die without regret. then you think, hey, you fool, you know, is this really what you want to do now? Will this be helpful at the time of death? And especially to rejoice about, we have this incredible boat, as they call it very often. You know, at the beginning, do you remember at the beginning of this chapter, it also talked about this boat with sails, but if there's no enthusiasm, there's no wind, and then the boat will not go anywhere. So just having this human boat, this human body, and this human mind is not going to do that much, actually. We also need to use it in a good way. So then, you know, from time to time, maybe in the morning, I don't know, you can, again, you know, I give you suggestions, and then you can shape it as you want, to think, okay, what do I want to do with this day so I don't have to regret anything at the time of death? Something like that. That makes sense? Somebody wants to say in Hebrew? Okay, but you don't have to do it. You know, these are just suggestions, but to really rejoice. I have this human body. I have this human mind. Of course, I have negative karma ripening also. And my, you know, my life is not just yuppie and wonderful and all this. I have all these problems and all these difficulties. This is why we want to get out of samsara. But as a human, I have so many resources to deal with when negative karma is ripening. If I would be born with all my negative karma ripening as an animal, as a hell being, as a hungry ghost, I would have no resources to take care of it. Whereas as a human may I use these resources in a good way so that I don't have to regret anything at the time of it. Is that too harsh? Will it make you feel guilty again, or will it make you feel joyful? What do you think? If it makes you feel guilty, don't think like this. It's not the point. You know, oh, I'm not doing anything with it. And then you go, okay, I'm not doing anything with it, but I have it. It's fantastic. And if you remember the causes for a precious human rebirth, anybody remembers them? That we must have practiced in the past. Otherwise, we wouldn't be all sitting here.
Ethics?
Ethical conduct. So at one point in a life, we didn't harm anybody. Isn't that fantastic? Our mind was so realized that it didn't harm anybody. So we can do it. We did it already once, at least. Ethical conduct, then, like meaning non-harming. Yeah, it might be better to say like this, non-harming. Then, Dina, you had opened your microphone. You want to give it a try?
No, I think it will be a good idea to do this practice every day, because then I will feel that we can live our life to the full and do good deeds.
Exactly.
And this will, even if we don't die, it will give us very good feeling.
Yeah. I mean, you know, preparing for death, I mean, we have to do it now. Preparing for death is giving us a good life. This is the funny thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Then we don't have to be afraid. Okay, so ethical conduct, patience, generosity, and having made the right aspirations to meet the Dharma again. Maybe this verse again, you know, from the Foundation of All Good Qualities. In all my lives, never be separated from the magnificent Dharma. May I meet perfect teachers or gurus and quickly attain the state of a Buddha. So if we can remember that at the time of death, this is it. You know, the mind will go like a train on rails. It will go to a situation where we can practice again. If we think, you know, this is important, may the Dharma become one with my actions and with my mind and with my this and that. You know, even if it doesn't happen, it doesn't matter. But we have to have this motivation. And then the motivation changes into habit, into tendencies. Yeah. So don't be afraid of high motivations and high dedication, because they produce these rails that then our ship is kind of going on. Okay? Thank you. So next week is rejoicing about having a human rebirth. Isn't that wonderful? With so many resources. And then when your mind goes, yeah, but it's so difficult and this is happening and that is, yes, this is samsara. And this is why I'm practicing, because I want to get out of it. And now I have the opportunity to do this. Isn't that wonderful? So we dedicate all the positive energy that we have generated, that also next week and all the weeks to come, and in all my lifetimes until I'm a Buddha. May everybody who sees, hears, touches me, talks to me, thinks about me, or talks about me, may that only be of benefit to them. May I be able to participate already now in people's well-being, peace of mind, happiness, and as much as possible already now, may I be able to free them from suffering, and maybe even the causes of suffering, by not disturbing their peace of mind. May I only be of benefit in whatever way I can. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good week, and hopefully see you next.
Thank you very much, Anila.
Anila.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
לילה טוב.
Take care. Bye.
Night.
Bye.
תודה לכולם.
להתראות לכולם, תודה רבה.
אני אדבר איתך מחר, ביי.